Hello, everyone. This is Chelsea Perry. I am a clinical hypnotherapist, past life regression specialist, and QHHT practitioner level 2. Today, we are doing something a little different. Normally, I upload my episodes of just different sessions and things that I'm able to share with you. But today, this is a series that I am collaborating with a friend called Conversations with the Higher Self. And this came about as a client who I first met about 8 years ago, who over the course of her journey of exploring, she became very immersed within her higher self very quickly. It didn't take much. I think we had paved the way early on. And though it doesn't usually take that to access the higher self by any means, she just has a very special connection with her higher self. And so I asked if it was okay that we collaborate on a series of information from the higher self. So this is basically a series of episodes where we will take a deep dive down different topics as interviews and questions to the higher self about what it is, the introduction to it, how does it guide us, how do we connect with it, how do we heal through it, our contracts, our lives and our past lives, and many, many other things that we've outlined. So this episode is just the introduction to the higher self. And through this is just a basically getting your feet wet. What to expect? What does that look like? What are you? And episode 2, which will be uploaded hopefully in a couple of weeks. It has already been recorded, but if you want to put questions down in the comments that you might have, it doesn't necessarily have to relate to the topic, but it helps if it does. Some of these have already been compiled from questions I've gotten from other people. So episode 2 will be connecting with your higher self. So this is a deep dive into how people connect with their higher selves through different methods. And if you have questions about that, feel free to leave them down below so that I can either ask them maybe on episode 3, and you will see those usually at the end of the videos, where I will take any extra questions that I have time for, and I will add those in as extras at the end of the interview process with the higher self. So that's how I would like to do these, and as we have time, we will add as much as we possibly can. But I hope you take the time to watch this and enjoy the introduction to the higher self. And if you have any questions about the videos or the format or anything that you would like to know going forward, please feel free to have that conversation down below, or you can find my information on my website. It's listed in the video as you'll see above. And if you enjoy, please like and subscribe to follow for more videos. Thank you for helping with that. So, are you aware of the process that we have started with this series that we're doing, the Conversations with the Higher Self?
Yes.
And is it okay that we start this process?
I believe so.
And are you okay with assisting with this process of bringing this information forward?
At this time, yes.
Okay. I want to say thank you for helping with this, because I know it is a large endeavor of bringing information forward. Is Jennifer's body comfortable at this time?
Yes.
Can I ask that you do a body scan and check her at this time if there is anything that needs assistance before we begin the questions? Is there anything you see that needs attention?
There are a few minor corrections. I have taken care of those.
Thank you. Can you tell me what those minor corrections were?
Energetic imbalances. that were affecting her alignment.
And they are corrected.
Yes.
Thank you. Is it a good time to begin with the questions?
Yes.
I want to first begin by asking, what is the higher self?
The higher self is what many would call the oversoul. It is the part of consciousness that has been with an individual through every lifetime.
And how are you different from what we might call our guides?
The guides are an external source that comes in to assist the individual. The individual is not only the higher self, there's also the subconscious and the ego at play. And the person, the individual, their personality is made up of a combination of all three. But primarily, for most people, it's the ego, because the subconscious is not actively involved in their day-to-day activities. It's not what's behind the driver's seat in most people. And for those individuals, many have lost their connection to their higher self.
Okay, I do want to ask more about that, but I'm going to try to go in order. So, why should we connect with our own higher self? Why is that important?
That is the connection to who you truly are. This existence wants you to forget that.
Why is that?
You are more easily controlled when you don't know who or what you really are. When you think the only thing to this life is a typical mundane human experience.
And is that important, to know more of who you are, to live this life more easily?
Yes.
So why is it important to build this connection now with our higher selves? It seems to be more obvious these days that it's a part of us.
As a collective, humans are waking up to the possibility that there's more to this life than what we've been taught.
And so it's illuminating the fact that we have a bigger aspect of ourselves that we can connect with.
That is correct.
And why is that so important? What does that do for us as humans?
It can be very healing to know that there is more to this life and that we are not alone in our existence and that we do have others that are working to help us and guide us and wanting us to succeed and achieve our goals. But this reality wants to keep that hidden and wants to keep humanity afraid, to feel that they are alone and to make them feel that they are not special, so that they can be easily manipulated and controlled by those that do, in fact, know the truth.
Well, there are many who might fear the idea that there is so much more beyond us. How do we assist in breaking those thought patterns if someone wants to look outside of that box?
Well, that's the ego and the subconscious. That's what they have been taught through programming. So anything outside of that programming will trigger the ego to reject that information, because through programming over time, the subconscious has developed an understanding that it's bad, anything different is bad and to be feared. What it will take is a similar style of programming to open their eyes that it is in fact not bad. You have to break through the programming with a more open-minded style of programming.
Well, for those who are doing that, every person who has their own beliefs would say that their beliefs are truth. So technically it could go for any direction, or any belief system could be truth or non-truth. So how would you know which one is? I don't want to say correct, because I know that's not correct, but how do you know which one you should reach for or believe?
Just because someone believes something is true does not make it true. If you are told lies long enough, you will believe it as truth. That does not make it truth. That just means you believe the lies to be truth.
And so how would one know the difference between lies and truth if the ego or subconscious has it accepted it as so?
It is not an easy process. That is why, as a collective, humanity is only just starting to wake up over all this time. It takes generations of open-minded people who are brave enough to embrace the unknown and to consider the possibilities that what they've been taught is in fact not reality. And as enough begin to question and believe, a collective awakening will occur where others will begin to also reject their programming and begin to question. That is what it will take to begin this process of removing the original incorrect programming.
And so, are you the same as what we would call the subconscious?
No.
Dolores Cannon has always used subconscious, and so that is how many of us are taught. But I was told to use the higher self. Why is it not the same? Or how does it differ?
The subconscious is the individual. The higher self is what you would call the oversoul. The subconscious does not travel from individual to individual. It is the whole person minus the ego. The ego is the personality that you see. It's the part of the individual that looks at the external forces based on the programming that the subconscious has received, and then determines if something is a threat or if something is good, and then filters that information quickly to the subconscious. The higher self is the part of the individual that is with them lifetime after lifetime, that experiences all lifetimes without the subconscious or the ego.
And so the higher self is not necessarily confined to the human construct.
Correct.
But the subconscious is.
Correct.
Can the subconscious still pull through and heal the same way the higher self does?
No. But it can utilize healing from the higher self. You can subconsciously request healing if necessary. For example, when a person, what you call prayer, who are they praying to? Are they praying to Source? Are they praying to a higher God? Are they requesting assistance from their higher self? If it is something the higher self can assist with and feels that it is correct to do so, they may choose to step in and help.
And so that's why even if someone prays to God, they may still receive assistance no matter what filter it has to come through.
Correct.
And so that's just the higher power that we call upon in general.
Correct.
And what are you in relation to the rest of the human as a whole? How do we place you as far as our energy field goes?
I would be considered above the energy field.
So you are not a part of the energy field, or Merkaba.
Yes and no. The connection to the higher self remains within the individual, but we, the higher selves, exist outside of it, slightly above it, but still connected.
So where is that connection to the physical body from the higher self? If we were to see it as a cord, as we do some things, a cord of connection, where is that connection into the physical body?
It connects through the heart center, but also through the crown. There's connection written also within the DNA.
And is everybody's DNA turned on in that aspect, if that's the correct way to put it, to their connection to their higher self?
It used to be.
And that's where people are waking up and regaining their connection in their own ways.
For some. For others, it has been turned off through external forces.
And is that place of connection the same for every person? The higher self's connection?
Yes.
Could you see it as a cord, or does it show up in another form?
No, it's not really a cord. It's not a tangible. You're thinking of something tangible that can be seen. It's not. It's something that can be accessed, the connection. It can be turned on and turned off. It can be heightened. but it's not physical.
How could it be heightened?
Through meditation, through introspection, through a natural desire to have that connection with the higher self. Once someone is aware that it exists and then chooses to focus on that connection, you can then strengthen it.
And why would someone turn it off and on? Is that a normal occurrence? To have that connection on and off?
As a collective, it was turned off when humanity fell in consciousness. The connection was lost long ago. It's only just now starting to begin to be recovered. But unfortunately, for many, those that did not want humanity to regain that connection, they created something that would make that connection more difficult.
Are we being affected by it, even those of us like me and Jennifer, who focus on that connection?
No. But for those that accepted the weapon into their system, it has made that connection more difficult, and it will make it harder for them to have that connection. It will require more effort on their part to establish and restore a connection.
So then why are some higher selves very active and others take more of a background role? Why is that?
Higher selves are individualistic, just like a person. Some may want to be more involved. Some may sit back and want to see what happens during this particular lifetime. But as long as the individual focuses on their connection to the higher self and truly desires to have that connection, one can be made.
Can we change the varying degrees of connection that we have?
Yes.
And how would we do that? Do we request it?
Yes, anything that you focus your intention on, you will be giving it energy. So, through meditation, through repetition, through personal desire, you can't just say, oh, I want it. But if you take the time to truly desire and open that doorway of connection, then it can be made.
Are there different levels to the higher self?
There can be, but that information can be confusing. I will not discuss it at this time.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering it. Are you the same, and I know you mentioned this before, but you are not the same as an oversoul, or are you? And what's the difference?
That is the part that can be confusing. We are referred to the higher self at times as an oversoul. It's the easiest way for a human to understand our role in their life. But in fact, there are less oversouls than there are higher selves. And the oversouls that exist can choose to split into multiple higher selves at one time to further have a human experience.
Okay.
So the answer is yes, but also no.
Okay. Well, I won't complicate it at this time by pushing further in that direction. I appreciate you answering that much. So where are you in relation to what we would call God?
Not the same. What you call God is source. We all come from source, but we are not source.
But you are having an experience as well as a part of source?
Our existence is because source wanted to experience what existence was like. So we are an aspect of source having a human existence.
So, say there's another place beyond Earth or beyond human experience, something else living a type of life like we are, would they have a higher self as well?
They could. It would depend on how source wanted to experience their existence through various levels or through a direct experience.
A direct connection.
Correct.
So how do you guide us in the day-to-day living?
Day to day is mostly governed by the ego.
And so what part do you play in our day-to-day?
You can recognize the higher self through what you would call intuition. The gut feelings that you may have about something, or the thoughts that pop into your head that you weren't actively trying to think about. That is an aspect of your higher self coming through to help you. Most people dismiss that or are so disconnected they don't feel it at all.
And so are we supposed to live day-to-day with more of that filtering through?
Correct.
And what benefit would that be for us to live more that way, more connected?
Well, you would be more connected to source.
And does that change how we live?
It's a more fulfilling experience the closer you get to source.
And is that where we are now, is learning to handle that connection and have a stronger connection in our day-to-day?
Humanity is barely in the early stages of this. But they are beginning to recognize it, and as a collective are starting to ask questions and wanting to regain what was lost. It's a good start.
And so why we were pulled to do something like this?
Yes, because there are many that are having questions and don't know where to begin or what the right questions to ask even are.
And so how will this help people listening to this?
Hopefully they will take the time to start trying to restore the connection with their own higher selves, and then begin to start listening for the guidance that the higher self is trying to offer.
And are there any other ways to do that, to build that connection, besides meditation or mindfulness?
It's all about looking inward versus looking outward. You'll find the higher self within, not through external sources. It's the external sources that will actually distract you and keep you from having that connection. But most don't even understand how to begin looking inward. This existence is very fast-paced, in your face, distracting at all times, attention being pulled from every direction. Most will say it's impossible to find a quiet minute just to sit, and then when they do, they turn on a television and they program their subconscious with even more stuff that's not necessary. They need to take the time to rest and be quiet and mindful and allow the higher self the opportunity to speak. And because humans have lived such a distracted experience, a disconnected experience, it's given way for other things to take advantage of that. Other entities that are not the higher self have taken advantage of people, and unfortunately, because they're not listening for their higher self, they plant thoughts that are not their own. They direct their attention to things that they shouldn't. They keep them on a path of negativity and distraction. And just in case that wasn't difficult enough, you have things such as the weapon that was unleashed that genetically made it difficult to connect to the higher self, and tampered with the DNA to prevent humans from being connected to the higher self.
So how do we know the difference? How do we know we're actually hearing our higher self versus something that might be trying to interfere? How do we know?
You can ask. The higher self will not lie to you, but others will. So ask. If you ask more than once and end up with a different answer, it is not the higher self.
And so we are speaking to the higher self now with no interference.
That is correct.
And there's no interference in the information coming through now.
That is correct.